Welcome to RetroQuest, my retro video gaming podcast where I force my son to play old video games on systems he never heard of. I'm your host, Joystick Cowboy. With me, as always, is Sako, the teenage prodigy.
Everybody's favorite co-host.
And this week, we played Bonk's Adventure for the Turbografx-16.
It's so weird hearing you. It's so weird hearing you say a console that isn't the SNES or the Sega.
Or Nintendo, because
or
I feel
the
like
original
we've done
NES.
more Nintendo games.
Yeah, we've definitely done more Nintendo. I don't know. I'm yapping, okay?
All right. So before we get started, how are you doing today, Sako?
I am doing amazing.
You're doing amazing. That's great to hear. I myself am also doing pleasant.
I'm glad to hear that.
Anything new with you this week?
I tried a drink that is now my favorite soda.
Okay, I meant video game wise, but okay, What's your favorite soda?
Oh, it's Jarritos. They're really good and they're not complicated. They taste like what they say they taste like, and you know, I appreciate that.
I feel like Coca-Cola tastes like cola.
See, but when I don't think of I guess I didn't know cola was a flavor.
Really? You've never had like generic like Sam's Club cola?
Well, like I've had it, but I thought it was based around like Coke. Cold. I thought like that was just like supposed to be like Coke. I thought that was just like.
Yeah, Coke invented the flavor of cola, but then there's the flavor of cola.
See, but I didn't know that. Like, okay, think about it like this, right? Dr. Pepper. What do you go into Dr. Pepper thinking that's supposed to taste like? I don't know. But when you look at
23 different ingredients.
But when you look at, you know, fruit punch Jarritos, what's it supposed to taste like? Fruit punch.
Okay, well.
Very straightforward,
yes.
And I appreciate that. And it's very low calorie compared to most other sodas, too. So I also appreciate that as someone who wants to lose weight.
Okay, I can respect that. Way to go. All right, so video gaming. What have you been up to with this game in the world of video games?
So yeah, I actually didn't put too much time into playing this game, sadly. It was a lot cooler than I thought it was going to be. So the name was what made me want to push it off. The name made it sound like it was going to be really cringe. But gaming wise, I actually can't say I did too much this week. I played a little bit of my VR, not too much. I streamed Uncharted this last weekend. But other than that, I don't think I played any games.
Okay.
What about you? What have you been up to?
Let's see. This week I played this game, obviously. I dumped a whole lot of time into Vampire Survivors this weekend.
Oh, yeah, you did.
I basically spent my entire weekend playing Vampire Survivors, and I have like everything unlocked except for the new DLC that I haven't gotten yet to unlock all that stuff. But man, that game gets crazy once you start like unlocking the real OP shit. Like I was way early game than I thought I was. Like last week before I started my event. I'll call it the event, the Vampire Survivor event. Before that, I thought I was, I'm like, I'm plugging away. I've unlocked a lot of stuff. There is so much more going on than I thought was originally. Holy shit. There's a fucking space level and like laser gun. It's nuts.
I thought that game was like based around Castlevania or something.
Yes, it is. And but like I said, there's much more to it. There's much more that you can get into. There's a DLC. Okay, so I guess there's more than one DLC I don't got. I got all the DLCs except for the one that just came out or is about to come out, I think. And then there was one that's based on Among Us, where you can like play. I don't know. I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I didn't see the appeal in that, so I didn't do the Among Us DLC on Vampire Survivors.
That checks out. I don't know. I don't think I would either. Had a cringe.
That just didn't feel. That felt real cringe to me, so I just kind of didn't do that. Other than that, in this game, I really haven't played. I mean, I put like 4 or 5 hours into Project Zomboid yesterday. But that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
About it. Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right.
Bonk's adventure for the Turbografx-16.
So tell me about your first impressions with this game when you first fired this up, Sako. First of all, have you ever heard of the Turbografx-16 before we'd played this game?
Heard of it, yes, but I didn't know anything more about it than its name. I'd never seen any like games for it or anything. I just know I'd heard about it, right? I knew it was kind of like pre 16-bit. Well, actually, I don't know what is this? Is this, are these games 16-bit or 8-bit?
We'll get into that.
But I know it was like pre what we count as the 16-bit era when it comes to retro gaming. It was pre then, but it was post Atari. That was all I knew.
Okay, so well, I guess we can talk about it right now. So the PC Engine / Turbografx-16
Engine.
It was big in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Now I know. Now
PC.
Yep.
In Japan, it was the PC Engine. I think in Europe, it was the PC Engine as well. Turbografx-16 here in the States, as they say. It came out after the Famicom in Japan and the Sega Master System in Japan, right? So it says Turbografx-16, says it's 16-bit. Now, the deal with the Turbografx-16 is it's still an 8-bit processor, but it uses a 16-bit GPU. So the processor itself is still just, only capable of the amount of depth of a 8-bit game. However, the animations and the sprites and everything look much better because they're actually 16-bit. So this kind of bridges the gap between the two in my mind. But what had happened was it did not do well in America. So it didn't really take off. But it came out, and for a while it was actually, from what I hear, it was a pretty big competitor to the SNES in Japan. And I think it was decently successful like in Europe. Just here in America, it just never took off. I don't know whether marketing or not. I knew about it as a child, and when we get to my sort of history with it, we can get into that more. But yeah, it's basically an 8-bit chip, 16-bit GPU. So I mean, I don't know if you would consider that an 8-bit game or a 16-bit game. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion came in. Was it's kind of how you look at it.
I guess so.
But when we're talking about like 8-bit games, 16-bit games, 32-bit games, we're talking about like CPU speed, Yeah. We're not talking about the graphics. Whereas you could. I
guess so. I don't really think. I guess, yeah, I think more 16-bit, the processing than the graphics, because the graphics, 8-bit game graphics can look just as good as a 16-bit graphic game. So, I mean, it's very much so based on how you look at it.
And at the end of the day, it died off because by the time the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis came out, those were 16-bit processors and 16-bit graphics, So
yeah,
by that time it lost a leg in the race, and it was just the dead horse. I don't know what neither one of those metaphors mean, but they sound apt.
Don't beat off the dead horse, or as they say,
stop beating off a dead horse.
Yep. That was a Turbografx.
The Turbografx-16. Anyhow, so tell me more about your first impressions with the game.
Yeah, so I load the game up. And if anyone who's been listening can't tell this already, I play on emulators. Oh no, I'm so evil, right? But I couldn't get the controls to work. In fact, you had to help me get the controls to work.
Yes, I did.
I don't
know what was up with your RetroArch if I can install. Might have to take a look at it for you. I think it was just got kid-jiggered.
I spent many minutes.
Kid-jiggered.
I spent many
minutes.
minutes.
Watching a lot of Futurama this weekend too. It got kid-jiggered. Scruffy says that a lot.
Oh, I haven't watched Futurama in a long time, and I only watched a little bit of it.
Scruffy says Kurt jiggered.
bite my shiny metal. So yeah, we got. Then you finally helped me get the game to work. And I was a little confused at first, because it's like,
Yeah.
you pick it up and it feels like almost like a Mario clone.
No,
Like when you
I
first
don't
pick
like
it
that
up,
you say that.
before you like learn like
I
how to
guess.
play, like when you're first playing, right? Like you can't stomp on enemies, right? But comparably you can bash them in with your head.
You bonk them.
Yeah, you bonk them. I thought bonk was just I forget that bonk is actually an adjective. Some reason I only think of it as like the name of the character.
Well, I mean, that's why he's named back. That was kind of, I guess that was like a term in the 80s because I remember that being a word that was used a lot. Like I knew what bonk meant before I think I saw the game.
Well, like yeah, I know what it means.
Head,
Yeah, I know what it means. Like 3 little monkeys jumping on the bed. One fell off and bonked their head.
You want to hear another piece of, I don't know, trivia, I guess. So this game Bonk, right? So it was not called Bonk in Europe because in Europe, Bonk actually is an inappropriate word. It means, to fuck.
Yeah.
So in the
I don't know how I didn't guess that actually.
So let's talk, we'll talk more about that when I talk about the game. But yeah, it's called Bonk here in Japan, or something like that. I don't know. We'll get to it. Anyway, your impressions about how cool Bonk was and not at all like Mario.
You're funny. Yeah, so I liked it though. Like once I got into it, very unique platforming elements for sure. Definitely things in here that you won't see in any other kind of platform. It's unique in the same way that Sonic Spinball's unique, right? It takes a well-proven concept, and makes it more appealing and easy, like makes it more appealing, like easier to work with. Like, when you like, it makes it more appealing to an audience, like an already sellable idea. It makes it more sellable.
Okay.
Right? Like the idea of platformer games had already been sellable, right? And it's hard to call this a platformer because there aren't many platforms, but
that's
when you
my
look,
thing. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of platformer. There's not a whole lot of platforming.
When you look at like the games that's very clearly borrowing the most types of elements from, it's very clearly platforming games, right? Because I don't think this was at the point where we really had those side-scrolling action games that controlled like this yet, did we? I don't think we had any games like that.
Actually, I mean, this is, I would say it doesn't necessarily take its inspiration from Mario. Like, I think
not Mario, but like that's just when I think of platformer, obviously I think of Mario. Like,
honestly, this game, in my mind, takes much more from Adventure Island. You ever played Adventure Island?
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I can kind of see that.
Like, this is more of that kind of game. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not necessarily platformer. It's very like basic sort of action adventure. It's I don't want to say basic because there are some pretty intricate things in this game when you get down to it. But I mean, you can pick it up, 2 buttons on that controller, and you can play it. And it just is like, as a kid, you can just go right, and you don't really have to worry too much about platforming. There's a couple swimming sections that aren't even that bad. I think the swimming in this game is decent.
I don't know. The swimming sections gave me flashbacks to playing Mario 1 for the first time.
I don't know. I thought the way you control in the water is much better than Mario.
Oh yeah, but like it was still 4 flashbacks,
I guess. But yeah, I would say it's not. I wouldn't even consider this a platforming game at all. There are a couple platforming sections, but there's platforming sections in a lot of random. It is platforming sections in Doom, but I would not say that's a fucking platforming game.
It's like how Fallout New Vegas has Fallout sections in it, but really isn't a Fallout game.
I don't know how to feel about what you just said.
I can hear the angry typing in the keyboard comments already.
I don't even
I have a very solid
What?
argument about it, but that's neither here nor there because it has nothing to do with this episode.
Um,
But I do have a very solid argument about it.
we're gonna have a discussion after this podcast, young man. Anyhow, so let's get back to your first impressions. So you thought it was a pretty easy get up and go game, kind of is what you were saying?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else about your first impressions?
First impressions, no.
All right. So I guess we'll talk about my first time with this game.
Ooh.
So we're going to take you back to the far, far away time of the mid 80s.
Oh, so far.
Late 80s maybe. So I knew what a Turbografx-16 was way before I ever played it. See, I had this my mom, I would never get bought magazines. I don't think I ever got any gaming magazines bought for me or subscriptions until the time when I had money and I could do it myself. But my mom would go to the grocery store when I was younger once a month, around food stamp time, just saying. And she would spend a minute in the grocery store, right? And she hated taking me with, like, since I was a kid. She always would have me read magazines. And this is the late 80s when you didn't have to worry about,
kidnapping.
A lot of things you have to worry about. A lot of things you have to worry about nowadays. You could stick a kid you could stick a kid in the magazine aisle and come back and get him an hour later and he'd still be there. So every month when my mom would go grocery shopping, I would go to the magazine aisle at our local fucking grocery store and I would just tear through and read all the gaming magazines cover to cover. So I did read all the magazines. No, I read like Game Pro, I read Nintendo Power, I read EGM, I think Game Informer eventually, PlayStation now. What?
I'm asking, was that the name of the store? Was it OXO?
No. What the fuck is an OXO?
Never mind. I thought you'd get it.
Depended on where I lived at the time. Albertsons, Skaggs, Alpha, Beta, sometimes.
You've never heard of OXO before?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a convenience store.
No, I don't.
Oh, never mind. They don't have any in New Mexico, and they don't have any in the States. Never mind. Anyways,
I don't.
It's a store. It's a convenience store. I
can't believe you interrupted my story for that nonsense.
So round food stamps time.
So I would read all the magazines and I would see all these weird shits in the magazines for, stuff I would never see, games that never came to my local video store for me to rent or whatever. And I always saw these Turbografx-16s and I was like, oh man, that's cool. Look at these graphics, So I knew about what it was. Never saw one, never knew anyone who had one, never played one. So eventually on the summer times, I would go stay with my grandma in the summers, so every summer I'd go stay with my grandma. And for like a month out of that summer, I would stay with my aunt. And when I stayed with my aunt, she still had to work. So I would go to babysitters. And it was always like when I went to these random babysitter friends of my aunt, that's when I played these like weird random things, right? So one random time she took me to her friends to babysit me and we went over there and she was asking him what, there was for me to do there. And she was talking about her son and she's like, yeah, when he went off to college, he's left his Nintendo in the living room so he can play that if he wants. So I was like, oh, cool, Nintendo, let's go see what he's got. I walked into that living room and I looked at the thing and at first I was like, this is a weird fucking looking Nintendo. What kind of Nintendo is this? And I looked at it for a minute and then I realized what it was. I was like, oh, this is a Turbografx-16. What? So I was looking for the game cartridges and shit, and all I saw were these little cards. So I went and asked the person who was babysitting me, where are the games for the system? And she showed me the little cards, and I was like, these are just little cards. And she's like, no, those are the video games. And so she stuck the little card in, and the first thing I played obviously was Bonk, because I was a kid, I was a child, probably second, third grade. And Bonk was all over the gaming magazines. That was like their mascot. He was like their Sonic. He was their Mario. It was like, oh, Bonk, that looks so fucking cool. I want to play Bonk. And that was the game that I always, when I thought of TurboGrafx, thought of Bonk, because I was a kid in marketing. So fired Bonk up, and it was just so fucking awesome. You gotta remember, this was before the Super Nintendo. I ever even saw a Super Nintendo or
Trust
heard
me,
of
I can
one.
I can imagine.
So it was fucking awesome. And then I played a bunch of other random games that were also really fucking awesome. And that's kind of how I discovered Bonk. Played it, and for that I think I was there. She was babysitting me for like 2 weeks or something. And 2 weeks, I lived Bonk at the babysitter's. Fucking, it was awesome. That's my history with Bonk and the TurboGrafx-16. Did you ever see any pictures of a TurboGrafx-16 game?
I did not actually. I'll look it up real quick. Though.
So they come on what are called hue cards, and they're like little cards about the size of a credit card with like connectors on the front. And basically what's inside of a Nintendo cartridge, but instead of having the big plastic shell, you just stick it right in like a little card. And I thought that was so fucking cool when I was like, this little thing is a video game.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. That's so weird. What? I never. Was that like
have you ever seen what the insides?
Was it like a prehistoric CD?
No, it's just, have you ever looked at the inside of a Nintendo cartridge?
I have.
That's about how big the chip, what's inside a Nintendo cartridge. The rest is just space.
Yeah. So they just like compressed it all down into this smaller area. They didn't do nothing special.
Give you the plastic part.
Yeah, they compressed it into a smaller area.
The inside. They didn't compress it. They just didn't give you the big plastic case part.
Yeah.
I mean, they made a smaller chip, but the technology at that time was a little better than what Nintendo worked with, so they could just make it in a smaller chip. But what I'm saying is, like, Nintendo cartridge has like a chip about that same size inside of it. It's just
I know. I'm agreeing with you. I've seen the inside of it.
You're agreeing and also disagreeing with me for some reason.
I am agreeing with you. I've seen the inside of a Nintendo cartridge. Many. I tried to ROM dump games when I was younger.
That's a sketchy development. Anyhow, Bonk's Adventure. Let's get into it. So let's talk about a little bit of wiki. Let's talk about a little bit of Bonk. So Bonk, known as PC Genjin in Japan and as PC Kid or BC Kid in European territories, is a video game character and former mascot for NEC's PC Engine TurboGrafx-16 game console. 3 platform games were made from it. It was 3 Bonk games. I think there was like 2 Airzon games. I think he even came to Nintendo at one point. So his PC name, or his Japanese name, is PC Genjin. Is a pun on PC Engine.
Yeah.
And his European name is PC Kid, similar to referencing the system's name. The console is also called the PC Engine in Europe. And the PC part of the Japanese and European name stands for Pithecanthropus computeruis or something.
I think you butchered that. I think you butchered that. I think you should give me a chance.
Pithecanthropus computeruis.
That was probably better.
It was a fictitious species that they made for like cavemen, because of the word bonk being like inappropriate. Oh, I think we lost Sako. Sako, are you there?
Yes. Our internet is not the most reliable thing on the planet.
What did you just say?
Our internet is not the most reliable thing on the planet.
Mine's fine. Anyways.
Yeah, because you're connected to the router.
So bonk beast means fucking British, and that's why they do it. All right. So
that's a naughty word.
So the origin of Bonk is Bonk was originally created as a comic book character, PC Caveman Engine, in a magazine for the PC Engine. so many people like the character that they gave him a name of his own, and they mistook him for the mascot, so NEC just sort of adopted him as the mascot. You know, so that's kind of how Bonk came to be. So Bonk's Adventure, known as PC Genjin, is a platform game developed by Red Company and Atlas of Persona fame, and other awesome games. It was released in 1989 in Japan and 1990 in North America for the PC Engine and the Turbografx-16, respectively. The Japanese title, PC Genjin, once again, is a pun.
Yes.
I don't know. I keep wanting for you to have a better reaction to that because I think that's awesome. That's like your humor. PC Genjin, PC Engine. Come on.
I get it. I get it, Dad.
I'm waiting for a laugh every time I say it. Anyway. Have you played Final Fantasy X? Because that was a Titus laugh. Anyhow. So the game was ported to the NES and the Amiga eventually, and re-released for the Turbo Duo in 1992. And the Super CD-ROM system, I think.
Yep.
So the story is the evil King Drool is up to it again. This time he kidnapped the beautiful dragon princess Zaw and hid her away. The year is 10,000 BC, and as Bonk the Caveman, it's your job to try to get her back. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of weapons around, so you just have to use your head. Literally. Now, in that story, is there anything that would lead you to believe that this game is about fucking aliens?
I mean, no.
Like King Drool and Princess Zaw, it all seems very at this time in gaming there was like this caveman thing going on. Like you had Caveman Ninja in the arcades and Chuck Rock. Have you ever played those?
I think I played Caveman Ninja, but not Chuck Rock.
Joe and Mac?
Nope.
It's Joe and Mac, Caveman Ninjas. Anyhow, there was like this caveman thing going on. So I think that's where this kind of came from. And that's kind of where you think this game is going with it. And those games kind of play in the same style as it's not like this, I wouldn't say in any way, but kind of that same style where it's not platforming, it's just kind of like go right and fight enemies. Yeah. You know, there might be a couple obstacles, but it's mostly just go right, fight enemies. Was this
maybe Golden Axe before Golden Axe?
No, because this is not like isometric.
Yeah.
There's no three-dimensional movement, just there is three-dimensional movement in a way on I guess that's still two-dimensional movement. No, there's only two-dimensional movement.
Is this Streets of Rage before Streets of Rage?
It's not a fighting game. God, you always like this.
I know.
All right. So, where was I?
Oh yeah, how the story doesn't reference aliens.
Yeah, the story doesn't reference aliens. I just want to point that out because that was always a thing for me. It's kind of like Echo in a way. The way I look at it, it's like you think it's this one thing, and then you get to the end, you're like, "Holy fuck, this was a whole different thing than I thought it was."
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
You know, that's kind of how I look at PC Genjin. All right, we got him. All right. Anyway. So let's talk about the gameplay a little bit.
Why don't we?
So Bonk attacks enemies by bonking them with his large invincible forehead. He starts the game with 3 hearts of health. It depleted when he takes damage. You have 3 extra lives. Your health can be restored in increments by collecting fruits and vegetables. Bonk can also collect pieces of meat as power-ups. These lend him special abilities and make him stronger.
I think this game was propaganda to get kids to eat their fruits and vegetables.
No, because that's like a very common thing in this era of gaming is your fruits and vegetables are either going to be points or they're going to be, health. So,
yeah, it's propaganda to make kids eat their fruits and veggies.
Okay, so there are 3 stages of power up. Well, no, there's only 2 stages of power up. those your normal self, and then you get the second stage, which you can
No, there's 3
stun
stages.
enemies by pounding.
There's
the
3 stages.
No, there's only. What are the 3 stages?
Okay, so there's the first stage, which is when you look like when you start looking like a prehistoric girl, and that's when you smash on the ground. It like turns everything to stone for like a second, and then there's the second stage, which is where you turn red, and when you hit the ground, it turns everything to stone for like 5 seconds. And then there's the third stage, which is where it's the second stage, except you're also invincible, like a Mario Star.
I'm pretty sure there's only 2. I was even playing around with that. I think the second stage you're thinking of, that's just what happens after you were big and you become small.
No, I'm thinking of...
That means that's after you were invincible and then become small.
No, I'm definitely thinking of three separate stages because I very specifically sought out what was happening, and I very specifically came to the conclusion there were 3 levels of level up.
I did the same thing, and I only came to the conclusion.
Because if you're on the second one and you eat another thing, then you get back that like Mario Star invincibility. It doesn't last forever though. It goes away, and you have to keep leveling up to get there, like the rest of them. You know.
Yeah.
So like the strongest stage is where if anything touches you, it dies. And then the second strongest stage is where when you hit your head on the ground, everything turns to stone for like 5 seconds, and then this
maybe I don't know. I see because I read 2 conflicting things. And then I went out to test it. And when I tested it, I only came across 2, but I could be wrong. I very, very well could be wrong. I played a lot of this game this weekend, but I also smoked a lot of pot this weekend. So I could be wrong. So I have a prescription. There's medicine in there.
No, I know. It's funny.
Anyway, so the power up aside, which God, I'm gonna have to play this game after the podcast, and because I swear, like I tested that out. Okay. Anyway, so other than the meat, you also have the spin technique. Now, did you use that spin technique at all in the game?
You mean where you jump and you spin in the air?
Yeah,
that was all I used.
That's all I used as well. Because see, the Turbografx-16 controller came with a turbo switch. So the controllers had turbo. So when the developers developed this game, they developed it with that in mind for more advanced players. Because of course, as a kid, I never really played with it. You can go left to right. You can play through the game, doing all the normal stuff. But if you go through the game just using that spin, like most of the time, you get to do some pretty intricate shit with that.
Oh yeah, like you can defeat entire bosses without ever touching the ground.
Yeah, I beat all the bosses very, very easily, except for that second one that kind of teleports. That's the only one that, even on the second boss rush, at the end of the game, the only one that gave me problems were her.
I think my main issue was only with the teleporting one too. Yeah, they were all
mostly. I basically stayed in the air most of the game spinning because there are little tricks and cool things that are built in with that the developers did put in there. That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that's, you go through, you have 5, they call them rounds, but they're basically 5 worlds with numerous stages in them. Go through the stages, get to the end, fight a boss. And then, yeah, that's about it. So yeah. So what did you think about the graphics of this game?
I'm gonna be honest. When I first picked it up, I was like, "Man, these graphics suck ass." But the more I played it,
wow,
yeah, I had very strong bad opinions of it at first. But the more I played it, the more intricate I realized the design was, and the more I liked it. I can't say I
love the graphics on this game.
I can't say I was fond of it, but I liked it more the more I played it.
Oh, I love the graphics in this game. There is so much charm in this game.
Really?
Yeah. Like
yikes.
There's just so much. What do you mean, yikes? Like, there's so much charm.
If this game charms you, then I wonder how far you made it around the world.
I'm just saying, even the enemies, they're all like like you got. I love the little you got the guys with the eggs on their head, and they have the hatchets. I think they're called Hatchet Henrys or something, or Henry
Literally
Hatchet.
Hammer Bros, dude. You cannot tell me this is not a Mario game.
Dude,
Hatchet
no,
Henrys,
that's not-
that is a Hammer Bro.
Well, it is not a Hammer Bro, dude. The design of that is so much cooler. It's a little fucking like
But it's the same idea.
alien thing. How is it the same idea? It's because they throw something. How many enemies in games throw things?
Most of them shoot things or stab you.
They don't throw things like in the way that Hammer Brothers do. They don't move back and forth like Hammer Brothers do.
Yes, they do. They do move back and forth like Hammer Brothers do. Okay, they do.
Yeah, no. Hammer Brothers face you the whole time and just kind of move back and forth and move
that's
up
what
and down
these
on
guys kind of
platforms.
do.
No, these guys are like any other random enemy in a game where they walk forward. When they hit the edge, they turn around and walk the other direction, dude. These things are nothing like Hammer Brothers.
Okay, sure.
And then you got the what are the ducks? Bill Duck. Where they have the eggs. They got that. They're like the blue guys. I think they have egg on their head.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got Bill Duck. Bill Duck, are you telling me that you don't see any charm in Bill Duck?
I mean, I'm not saying Bill Duck doesn't have any charm. I'm just saying Hammer Henry, even in the name, is very similar to a Hammer Bro.
How is the names like a Hammer Bro? Because it starts with a H?
No, because think about it. Like there's a play on words when it cut like Hammer Bro. That's kind of a play on words.
That's not even a play on words. That's just they're Hammer Brothers. They're brothers who have hammers. That's very generic. That's like not even like a pun or a play on words. That's just
You're telling me Hammer Henry is any more like non-generic?
That's way more creative. Oh man, are you gonna sit here and tell me that someone actually sat and thought for a while about the name of the Hammer Brothers? They're like, oh no, there's two brothers and they throw hammers, dude. That's super generic. Whereas Henry Hatchet, like this, someone sat down and put some thought into that. Oh, I am offended that you do not find that charming.
I find Bill Duck charming.
Okay then.
Henry Hatchet's just, the name is not it for me. It sounds like Hammer Bro. It reminds me of Hammer Bro, right?
What about Crockett Dial?
Crockett
The little
Dial.
crocodiles that eat you.
Yeah, those guys annoyed me, but I loved them because they were kind of cool. Because they had the most unique
Come on,
moveset. They had the most
Dial.
unique set. I get it. Crockett Dial. It's like crocodile. Because if you pronounce it like really fast, it's just crocodile. I get it.
I am very offended that you don't see the charm in this game.
I do. What about the
Anyways.
squibs versus the squib?
Did you watch the whole credit roll to see all the names of the enemies?
No.
Oh.
I was going to, but I after 5 seconds I was bored.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I have a TikTok attention span. No, I don't. I don't at all. I just don't like reading names. Even though
what did you think of the bosses?
I loved the bosses, dude. They were actually really cool.
Did you?
Yeah. They were
I thought
very
the bosses
unique.
were super cool.
They were all very unique.
There was a lot of charm to this game. The sprites looked very unique.
Yeah.
They all had like their own like style to them, and that's what I love about this game is the style of like the graphics, the way it looks, the bright colors, and just it's very charming to me.
Yeah, I can see that.
The
That
bosses,
makes sense.
all the bosses I find charming except for the fucking muscle bound punchy guy. He doesn't seem like he fits in with the rest of the guys for some reason.
He's like a hippie. He was my favorite. He was the easiest to defeat in my eyes.
Yeah, he was pretty easy. And then you got the that like tractor guy at the end of the game. Where it's like a dinosaur head thing where it's like and you fight that and then you fight the fake Princess Zaw.
So you fight Princess Zaw first, and during the Princess Zaw fight, I was like, this is the final fight of the game, right? So I let myself get as low as I needed to just get hit off after hit off, and I ended up beating that fight with 1 hit left.
And then you had to go fight King Drool.
Yep. and I had no more extra lives left either. So I had to defeat King Drool with one hit and no lives to back me up.
Oh, wow. And obviously you did it.
Yeah.
A lot of rewinding.
A lot of rewinding. More than
that is actually like a difficult fight. Like even with rewinding and shit, that was a difficult fight.
I spent more time probably rewinding than I did actually playing at that point. Because every time I would hit him, I would hit the hitbox just right that I would take damage and also get a hit off. But I can't take damage. So I would have to rewind. Because otherwise I'd have to restart all the way back at the boss rush.
You know what was super cool? What I thought was cool is right before you fight King Drool and you fly to fucking the like moon and like a rocket ship shaped like a fucking dinosaur skull. The same like dinosaur skulls that you've been going through this whole game to go to like your bosses, and then you realize those aren't fucking dragon, like those aren't dinosaur skulls. Those are like the rocket ships that those fucking guys landed in.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. There's a lot more going on than meets the eye.
Oh yeah. It's an awesome game. So you thought the graphics were cool?
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it at least somewhat. Even though you don't find Henry Hatchet adorable.
Look, I'm not saying he wasn't adorable. I'm just saying he's a hammer bro. He's
not a hammer bro. Every time you say that, my blood pressure rises.
Okay, I'm going to look up a picture of Hammer Bros. Okay? Now I'm going to look up a picture of Henry Hatchet. And I'm just going to do some mental evaluating for 2 seconds. So I even looked up Henry Hatchet and it said Henry Hatchet Mario Bros. Like, come on.
No. See, the Hammer Brothers. Right. I get. God damn it.
Henry Hatchet. See, like, there's a lot of similarities in the design of the Henry Hatchet and the Hammer Bros.
I'm looking at a picture of a Hammer Brother right now, too.
You hate that I'm right.
I don't know. I don't think you're right at all. I just say I can see there's similarities, but I don't think that like anybody who made the Henry Hatchet fucking enemy was like, I'm going to make like a Hammer Brothers enemy.
No, but it's like subconsciously is what they were thinking,
Who the hell are you to tell me what some Japanese dude in the 80s thought subconsciously when they created this fucking sprite?
Mario was very big in Japan.
You don't say.
I mean, there's a 100%, there's an 80% chance.
I get that. By the time this game came out, most things were at least a little bit, iterative of Mario Brothers. I mean, you kind of have to be at this point. But I don't think that specific thing go together.
I think it does.
I really think
it does. You even looked at pictures.
Yeah, because I was going to prove you wrong.
And now you can't, because I'm not.
Well, I can't necessarily prove you wrong, but you can't prove me right.
You're right. I can't prove you right because I don't want to.
You can't prove you right.
I mean, I can draw enough similarities to where...
We're just going to have to agree
stalemate.
We're just going to have to agree. We're just going to have to agree to disagree that you're right, okay?
I don't know. It's all Greek to me.
Okay. Anyhow. God damn it, Sako. I can't even
hurt
with you right
in your
now.
Soul.
I can't even with you right now.
It's not, I mean, it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just pointing it out.
I know you're not saying it's a bad thing, but it still bothers me that you keep saying that. Stop saying that.
Even the names. The whole point is the names are very spot on.
Tepig is a generic and lame Pokemon as well.
No, he's not. Nuh-uh. You take that back.
That's it. No, I take it back. I'm sorry.
Tepig is amazing. He deserves to be in more Pokemon games.
Okay. So, what'd you think about the music in this game, Sako?
It was very... Annoying.
Yeah, I played it with the sound off mostly.
I think halfway through the game I turned it off.
I think I listened to the music for each stage.
I don't know. This game turned to one of those things like the levels were so similar, like were similar enough that it became muscle memory, and I was kind of just doing other things like as I looked down and played. Like I was like watching like
I don't think
a show.
the levels are necessarily the same. Like,
but like they're like the navigation is simpler, like close enough simply to where like there's not much like once you get past the first world, nothing new is introduced like really, so you can kind of just like
mostly the same, except for like the few water areas you have, or like on the the second or third level where you're going up those trees.
Yeah, the vertical levels.
Cool to, I thought that was cool how you could like swing to either side of the tree.
Yeah, and if you fell, then you had to like it was longer. Also,
I thought that
when the first water level was introduced, I spent I think 34 minutes trying to skip the water level by jumping across like the falling platforms because I was like, there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way. There's no way. It's not possible.
Long bridge.
Yeah, it's not possible.
That big long bridge.
Yeah,
no, I did that. You can get across it.
No, you didn't. I did. I spent forever. I learned everything about the physics system in this game to try to do that, and I couldn't do it. I did it.
I did it on my second try.
I literally played.
Water. I didn't even know. I thought you just died when you fall down that bridge.
Okay, no, now you're yanking my chain.
No, I'm serious. I never. Because when I fell down the bridge, I just rewound it back until I tried it again and I made it across. So I just thought you died if you fell down there. I didn't know there was like a whole water level down there.
You're actually kidding me. You're kidding me right now.
I swear. Like I didn't think I could make it across either, but I just barely made it across. Like you have to not jump from the ledge. Like you have to just get to where you're barely on that first falling platform and then jump. And see, the thing is, when you're using that turbo, right? Here's the trick. When you're using that turbo and you jump, and then you have to hit your finger over to the turbo button, because if it's on your controller configured the way it is on mine, then there's just enough time for when you let go of that jump button and hit that turbo button to where you lose some height. So what I did on the second one is I put my controller on my leg, right? And I went forward with my thumb, and then I put my index finger and my middle finger on the buttons and jumped, and then hit the other button at the very, very top of that jump and started spinning. And that's how I made it across.
I'm just now realizing something. I never once tried to spin in the air while I was making that jump. I would have definitely made it if I would have spun in the air to try to make the jump.
How did you not make that jump?
Because I never once thought to spin in the air. I don't think at this point in the game I'd realized it.
You're like, I'm going to work on all the physics in this game, and you didn't know how to spin in the air like that yet?
Because I hadn't because when I'm in a very limited no more than 16 by 16 level map, in one area, of course I'm not going to be able to figure out that you jumping and spinning is going to do a lot for you.
I figured that out very early in the game, even when I was a kid.
You know what? I don't care.
Okay, well, anyhow, so that happened. For me anyway, it didn't happen for Sako. I got across that. Are we talking about that same bridge where it's that long, those bones that fall?
Maybe we're talking about a different one. I don't know if mine had bones. I thought it was just blocks that fell.
Or maybe there are blocks. I thought they were bones. I always thought those falling blocks were bones.
Maybe they were. Maybe we are talking about different areas.
All right. What did you think about those eating the meat for the power up? Yeah, that was cool.
That made me laugh.
Dude, that's so cool.
I love eating meat.
We're gonna eventually have to play the second and third Bonk games because it gets really fucking cool. Or they made a spin-off called Air Zonk. Where it's a shoot 'em up. Yeah, it's a shoot 'em up, and it's in the future. And instead of playing as Bonk, you play as a character very similar to Bonk, only he's wearing these shades that stick up, and he flies and he shoots electric bolts or sunshines or something weird.
Bonk is a time traveler.
I remember he shoots something. But
What
yeah,
if it is Bonk? What if Bonk's a time traveler? What if we're looking at Echo lore right now? What if Echo went back in time and grabbed Bonk and brought him for Bonk shoot him up?
let me tell you what, the Bonk lore has been thoroughly like explored, and let me tell you what, Air Zonk is not Bonk.
Aw. But
or maybe
what if
she
it
is.
could
I don't
be?
know.
What if Echo
Probably could be. I don't know.
What if Echo was the master behind all of this? What if he just brought Bonk to the future, gave him some sunglasses, and said, "Shoot him up, Zonk," because he's a dolphin, so he can't pronounce bees.
I don't know. Sega and their mascot probably wouldn't want to like. Sega was very against like every other company, so yeah, Echo wasn't helping nobody, especially from the fucking Turbografx.
Aw. That would have been so cool.
Yeah, well, you can tell that to fucking Sega.
Sega.
They don't play well with others. They talk a lot of shit.
They're like that one kid on the playground.
Especially at this time, they talked a lot of shit, mostly at Nintendo. But, you know.
There was enough to go around.
Yeah. You know, this was the Konami system, I think. I think Konami like fucking was a huge investor in PC Engine.
They were.
And now they make pachinko machines.
See, when you say Turbografx-16 doesn't ring a bell. But I watch enough people that are like I watch enough European content online that you say PC Engine, I'm all over it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's the weirdest thing to me, that when I said Turbografx, you're like, oh, it's a PC Engine. Oh, PC Engine. Yeah, that's that cool thing from Europe.
Cause you're like, I just always I've always watched like European stuff. So it's like, I like, you know, I hear how Europeans say things. Like, I'm like, Turbografx, what's a Turbografx? And it's like,
do you like
PC
how
Engine,
in Europe they call the Nintendo the NES and the SNES?
The NES. See, I thought that was just how the entire world called it, because I call it the NES and the SNES.
No, you're just weird.
Or sometimes I call it the Super NES.
That's weird. That's weird to me.
I thought that was just how the entire world like said it, because like that makes sense. The NES is the NES.
I don't think that's what you thought, but okay, we're gonna let you think that you thought that.
Well, no, because like NES, like it makes sense, because like, you know, NES is Sans.
Because NES is what?
NES is Sans.
NES is Sans. What are you talking about?
NES is Sans is also MatPat.
I don't have any idea what you just said besides MatPat.
No, Matthew Patrick. I know you know who MatPat is.
Yeah, I know that. I don't know anything else you said.
He calls the NES. He calls the NES the NES, and he calls the SNES the Super NES. Which is weird, because he calls the NES the NES and the Super NES the Super NES. But that's how most people call it. But like it's weird because he calls the NES NES, but the Super NES he calls that Super NES, not Super NES. Right? That's just. But that's besides the point. The joke is that because one of MatPat's first biggest theories was that Ness from Earthbound is Sans from Undertale. So it was wordplay.
Okay.
But yeah, Ness. You're telling me, what do you call it? What do you call it? What do you call it? What do you call it?
What?
The NES, the NES.
Nintendo? Depends on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to my mom, I call it the regular Nintendo. If I'm talking to like anybody else, I usually call it the NES or the Nintendo.
Why regular Nintendo?
I don't know. That's just what we called it back in the day. We had your Super Nintendo, and then you had your regular Nintendo.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. That adds together.
That's what we called it back in the day, and up until like the next Nintendo system, till the Nintendo 64 came out. I think at that point it was like, well, that's just. I don't know. I think I still call it the regular Nintendo, depending on who I'm talking to, or I call it the NES or the Nintendo.
You've never called it NES.
Mockingly, I have several times.
But it's like, that's so mean.
Okay, I have never heard you call it the NES either. Quit trying to sound all special.
No, I call it the NES.
I've never once
We
heard
had
you
this
call
exact
it the
same
NES.
conversation on a different episode. You know that, right?
Yeah. Oh, we did?
Yes.
I don't think we do. It was probably that episode that never aired.
What
That we had
episode
to
never? Oh
re-record.
yeah, maybe. It was either that one. I think it was an episode that got out though. I'm pretty sure because we were playing a game for the NES, and I was like, we're playing this for the NES, and you were like, "Do you just call it the NES?" And then we had like a whole tangent at the beginning about how I called it the NES.
Okay, well, enough about the NES because we're talking about a whole different system.
Yeah, not even the right system.
The Turbo. Okay, you have anything more to say about this game? Because I don't. Besides,
No.
I think it's fucking awesome.
It's cool, I guess. It's Mario.
Okay, well, so here's the thing. When it
Hammer
comes
Henry.
to Bonk's adventure, don't you like the design of Bonk? I think he looks fucking cool with his little eyebrows that go down.
He looks cool, but he also kind of scare me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he looks
When he gets angry and
uncanny.
eats it.
He's
I love
like
when he eats his meat and he jumps in the air and he gets all like
Yeah,
fucking
I love eating meat.
crazy.
He's very
Yeah, we
uncanny
know.
valley.
Okay.
Like, am I wrong?
So-
He's very uncanny valley.
When we rate this, when we have to come up with a system. So when we rate Turbografx-16, because believe me, this will not be the last Turbografx-16 game we play. Do
So we have to-
rate them
we have to
out
rate it
of
on
8 or 16?
We have to rate it on an 8 to 16 scale.
From a 8? No, we can't rate it from 8 to 16. That's dumb.
the scale because it's an 8-bit and 16-bit system.
So from 8 to 16, what's your rating of Bonk's Adventure?
It's going to definitely be a 10.
Oh, are you fucking kidding? Okay, let's do this normally. We're going to do this on a scale of 1 to 8. No,
That's a
1 to
2.
16.
That's
We'll
a 4.
let's do it on a scale of 1 to 100.
It's a 40. No,
So
actually,
40?
no. That's too high. It's 32. That was quick maths.
Okay, so let's go back to the 16-bit. What are you going to give it out of 16?
Out of 16, okay. I'll give this game the benefit of the doubt actually. And I'll give it out of 16, I'll give it a solid 10. No, I'll give it a solid 9. I'll give it a solid 9 out of 16. Over half.
So-
It's not failing.
Wow, why did you give it? I thought you enjoyed this game.
I did, but like compared to
Like the
other games we
mechanics in this
played,
game are awesome.
like I like the mechanics, but like when I compare it to other games we've played and games I foresee us playing, this just can't rank very high. Right? If I give this
Like
game,
you don't like the physics in this game.
like if
how
I give
you
this,
jump,
if
and
I
like
gi-
how you jump, and if you bonk, you go on your head down. But if you press the button again, you'll lie on the right side up. Like
that also annoyed
That's
me a
fucking
lot
cool.
too. That annoyed me a lot.
so that's not winning. That's not winning your vote, is it?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Okay, so a
Yeah, it's
9 out of
gotta-
16. I can live
'cause
with that.
If I give this game, because think about it like this: if I give this game a 15 and I have the specific opinions about it that I have it, then I would have to give Legend of Zelda a 16. Legend
Okay.
of Zelda 2 would have to be a 16, and I'm not willing to make that sacrifice.
I think you should do that for both of these games. Both those games. I agree with that logic 100%.
No, I'm good. Because I'm messing with my whole
Okay.
system.
Okay, so you gave this a 9 out of fucking 16.
And I guess
on
also
the
maybe
other
it's just
hand-
because maybe it's also because like, you know, the NES and the Sega hold like a nostalgia factor to me that I'm gonna rate their games higher. Whereas to this is just a game on a system I've never played before with weird mechanics.
Sako. I am going to give this a
You better not. Do not give it a
15
16.
out of-
Okay.
no, I'm not giving it a 16. Sorry, not a 15 either. That's not what I was thinking. So
If you give it a 9 too,
an
I'm gonna laugh.
11. I'm going to give it an 11.
You get
out of
mad at me
16.
for 9, but you give it 11.
I think I'm doing my math wrong in my head.
Okay. So
I think 13. Okay, no, a 13 is what I wanted to give it. So like a 7 out of 10, kind of 7.5.
No, that's like an 8. That's like an 8.1.
No, an 8 would be like a
13. Dad, 13 divided by
12 would be an
16.
8. Okay, then
A
yeah,
12
11.
would be
I want to give it an 11.
11.
I'm gonna give
Okay,
this
that's
an
like
11 out
68.
of like a 7.5. You know,
That's not even 7, Dad. That's 6. Like that's 6.8.
what's 7.5 then?
It would be like 12. Literally 12 is exactly 7.5.
No, that would be like a 7.
No, 12 divided by 16 is 0.75, Dad.
Yeah, 7.5. That'd be 7.5.
Yes, so 12 out of 16 is 7.5.
You're not doing this right.
Yes,
So,
I am.
If you're gonna take because I'm not thinking out of 10. I'm thinking out of 8. I'm not doing my math like a 7 out of 10 out of 8, 7.5 out of 8 or out of 10. I'm doing it comparing it to the 8-bit scale.
Oh,
So you were confused on
Then
how
you
I was
would-
rating it.
then that would be a 14. Because 7.
Okay, maybe I think in my head I was doing the 7.5 scale, but I was using the math of an 8 scale. Listen, I'm just gonna give it a 12 and leave it at that.
Okay, so you're giving it a solid
I give
C.
this game a fucking 12 out of 16.
You give this game a
because I'm
solid C.
confused.
It's passing.
It's pet. Okay. A 13 because it's a little bit better than passing, but it is very simple game. Aside from the great physics and the great character
Aside
design,
from everything about this game that's not simple, it's pretty simple.
the game is simple. You can,
I beat it in like 3 hours.
yeah, but that's using the spin advanced spinning techniques to fly through the air. If you're not doing that and you're going through the game itself, it's still pretty simple. I feel like doing that in and of itself is more advanced. Like that's what kind of gives it its legs, is that you can kind of use those spin techniques and you can volley enemies. You know what I mean? You can hit them in the air, jump and hit them in the air again.
And you get more points.
I don't know. The power-ups, there's not a lot of power-ups. I can see that. There's not a lot of variety to this game. The bosses, although they look amazing, they're super simple. Like I love this game, but I cannot look past some of the shortcomings of it. So yeah, a 13, a solid 13 out of 16. And I think a lot of those in the sequels makes up for a lot of that. Because you gotta imagine this was the first Bonk game. They're establishing the character, establishing the gameplay.
Yeah, but have you ever played the original Mario?
Like the Mario Brothers? Like
Yes,
not
Super Mario Brothers. We're not talking Super Mario like arcade game with Mario Luigi hitting animals upside down. We're talking Super Mario
the
Brothers.
original Super Mario? Of course I
We're not
played
talking
that.
about we're not talking about Jumpman either, which is Donkey Kong. We're talking about Super Mario Brothers.
No, I'm talking about Super Mario Brothers. Yeah, what about it?
Yes. That was the first Mario game, right? When it comes to of course you can argue Super Mario. No, Mario Brothers is the first Mario game, but reasonably speaking, Super Mario Brothers is the first Mario game. And
What's the first Super Mario game?
The first Super Mario game is literally Super Mario. Well, I guess that then you want to beg the question, does Donkey Kong technically count because Jumpman is Mario?
But it's not a Super Mario game. It's not Super Mario.
Then it's literally Super Mario. No, it's Mario Brothers.
Yeah. It's Mario.
That's
That's Mario Brothers. Like he's not Super Mario until he goes to the Mushroom Kingdom and gets superpowers. Other than that, he's just Mario. Just jumps. That's about it.
It was actually Jumpman before he's Mario.
Well, he just jumps either way. He can grab a hammer and hit shit, and that's about it.
But
okay, what were you gonna say? First Super Mario Brothers. Okay, what were you gonna say? The first Super Mario Brothers game. What about it?
Right, that was the first of the Super Mario Brothers saga, and I feel like everything that this game fell short on, when it comes to the aspects that just didn't quite work out for them, those same ideal aspects worked out for Super Mario Brothers, and that game came out way earlier. So at this point,
they're two different types of games.
I'm not saying they're the same type of game. I'm saying that Mario does a lot of things for being what it is, the first game of its name, Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
It does extremely well in being Super Mario Brothers. Whereas,
what's your point? I didn't give
Bonk-
this a 16 out of 16. Yeah, Super Mario Brothers is a 16 or 8 out of 8, game. This isn't. What's your point?
No, I was just saying, like, just because it's the first game in the like series isn't any reason to excuse its shortcomings, because as we'd been proven with Super Mario Brothers, the first game in a series can be even one of the best in the series and the strongest holding, like when it comes time wise. Like, I wasn't comparing this game to Mario at that point. I was just saying, right, Mario does a strong point of proving you can't just give something the benefit of the doubt.
You're pointing at Mario Brothers, which is like a special case. Most games fall in the same way as Bonk. The first game is they're putting the footing down, and then the sequels get better as they go along. That's how most games go. Mario,
it's like Uncharted.
Mario actually went in a weird direction where their first game was good. Their second game kind of fucking sucks.
Well, are we talking Super Mario?
The second game, the second Super Mario Brothers game in Japan. That game kind of sucks.
Really, I like that one.
I think it sucks. I just don't like it. I just don't think it's fun. I'm not saying it's not a good game if you like that. I just don't think it's fun.
Lost Levels is amazing.
So what I'm saying is, a lot of games are they go this way. They put that first game out there to even see if people are interested with the character, the theme, the way the game plays, and then they build upon that for sequels. So I mean, and that's why anyway, this isn't even. I gave this game, it was a 13 out of 16 because I legitimately enjoyed it. I legitimately like the graphics, not the music. I like the gameplay. I just like the game.
Yeah. I'm not saying I didn't like it. I just can't give it a higher than a 9 because that breaks the system I've been rating it on.
Okay. So that was Bonk's adventure for the Turbografx-16. You get any plugs for us today?
Teenage Prodigy, Soccer Gaming on all platforms, stream Uncharted every other weekend, sometimes every weekend if I'm feeling it. Teenage Prodigy movie news coming soon when I'm actually willing to start making posts because I'm very lazy. Other than that, I think that's all my plugs.
All right.
Oh, the RetroQuest linktree.
Yep. All his plugs are on the RetroQuest linktree, as are mine. And this is RetroQuest. You can find us on YouTube at RetroQuest Podcast.
Wait, what's our next
find
game?
us on hold on. We can find us on Spotify, Amazon, all that stuff, YouTube, or iTunes. Please,
we're on Amazon
rate
with the Fallout show.
Please rate it. Please rate and review us. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, give us that like. It really helps. Give us a little bit of traction, and I would just greatly appreciate it. As far as our next game, let's see. Let me think for a second. I have a couple in mind.
Okay.
So, do we want to go for a game that's a little bit more heavy or a little bit more light this week? It's been a couple of light weeks.
I only work one day this week, so I say we can go heavier.
Okay.
Well, how heavy? How heavy?
Well, they're Nintendo heavy. How much time can you really sink into it? Even like fucking Final Fantasy, And even if, I guess I could have picked a Super Nintendo. I could have picked like Chrono Trigger. Should it be Chrono Trigger?
No,
I'll wait till
it's not a Chrono Trigger. Yeah, I was gonna say it's not quite.
I'll wait till school's out, and then we're doing like a Chrono Trigger. Let me think. NES. Okay, I had a couple of mine. I forgot. So we are going to do. I will have to text this to you, but I'll say it anyway. The Magic of Scheherazade.
Oh, okay.
Wait, you know that game?
No.
Oh, well, it's The Magic of Scheherazade. We'll play that game. The other game I was thinking of was a Game Boy game, but I actually can't think of what it was at the moment. I was thinking about it earlier today.
I'm real excited for the next time I pick one. Okay. You're gonna love it.
The Magic of Scheherazade. Yeah,
just text it to me. I think you've butchered it enough that everybody's that's still listening is cringing. Anybody who heard you mispronounce it the first time has already left.
All right. So, anyways, this has been RetroQuest. I am your host, Joystick Cowboy, and
Your co-host,
with my
Teenage Prodigy.
Yep.
I like announcing myself.
Signing off.
Audio
Have a
Laverci,
great-
adios.
I'm flipping him off right now, but you can't see it, and neither can he.
Yeah, I could hear it.
Anyways,
I could feel it.
This has been RetroQuest, and bye.